Thank you all once again for joining, and you are most welcome to the fourth day of the week-long Africa Universities Week. On behalf of the Association of African Universities, we would like to thank you very much for staying with us from Monday throughout the week to today. And we are still in the celebratory mode for the Africa Universities Day celebration. Like I said, a week-long celebration that commenced on Monday. And today being the fourth day, we are gradually getting to the climax of this year's celebrations, which is themed the future of learning, technology, innovation, skills, and inclusive growth. So as we celebrate, it is imperative for us to reflect on topical issues relevant to the advancement of higher education in Africa. And in so doing, our meeting today, we have a lineup of very insightful discussions that pertain to issues on Africa's higher education. We will be hearing from our partners as well as our regional offices that will be speaking to the various topics on open research, on how African universities can enhance teaching, as well as leveraging global partnerships to accelerate the future of learning in Africa. We would also be looking at the data sovereignty in the age of artificial intelligence, data policy in higher education, and we'll also be looking at how we can empower North African higher education for inclusive digital innovation and regional growth. And then finally, we look at data as a catalyst, leveraging citizens' voice to shape the future of learning in Africa. So as you can see from our lineup, we have very pertinent issues to be discussed, and we'll be engaging with you, our audience. We would be receiving presentations from various partners and regional offices, and then we would also be hearing from you, you joined, connected with us today, to also know your views and perspectives on all these topics that we have mentioned. So my name is Millicent Efriye. I'm with the Association of African Universities, and I'll be your moderator for the first and second sessions. And then my colleague, Ms. Irene Duthie-Adai, will take over for the second and third sessions. So without wasting much time, we would like to begin with the first session, which is on open research, building bridges across disciplines and communities. And this will be led by Dr. Madhurima Kalahi, who is the head of academic relations and partnerships at Taylor and Francis. But before Dr. Kalahi comes in, we just want to give a brief overview of the session so people understand where we're coming from and where we're headed to. So open research is transforming how knowledge is created, shared, and accessed. So this session explores how open science practices, spanning from open access publishing, data sharing, and transparent peer review, enhance research visibility, producibility, and impact. Participants will gain insight into emerging trends, institutional policies, and best practices that foster collaboration and accelerate discovery. Open research not only strengthens academic integrity and drives innovation, but also advances researchers' careers, enhances institutional profiles, and increases global visibility of research. So join us as we explore how these practices can shape the future of scholarly communication while ensuring that the research you publish is widely read and built upon. So it is very important for us to understand how open research works and how we will be able to build bridges across disciplines and communities as higher education institutions. So to lead us with the presentation is Dr. Madhurima Kalahi, as I said earlier. She serves as the head of academic relations and partnerships at Taylor and Francis, where she leverages her extensive expertise in both academic research and scholarly publishing. She holds a PhD in genetics, brings a unique perspective that bridges the gap between scientific research and publishing excellence. Her current role encompasses researcher engagement, open science advocacy, and cultivating strategic partnerships across India and Africa. With over a decade of experience in academic publishing, Dr. Kalahi has developed comprehensive expertise across multiple functions, including books, journals, open research initiatives, marketing strategies, and partnership development. She's a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in research and communication, scholarly communication, working to ensure that academic publishing becomes more accessible and representative of diverse voices in the global research community. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome Dr. Kahali to lead us on the presentation on open science. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me at this very important forum. We have been working closely, partnering with AAU for the last couple of years. And through AAU, we've been able to understand so much about this huge, active and dynamic research ecosystem in Africa. Earlier this year, our colleagues were also at Morocco for your flagship event. So today we're going to talk about in my session about open research, how it is bridging across disciplines and subject areas. To give a brief introduction about myself, so I have been a researcher and an academic before I moved into scholarly publishing. I have a PhD in genetics. Soon after the PhD, I decided I would love to, explore science communication, academic publishing, and not go the, usual postdoc and teaching way. And I started working as a publisher with Springer Nature, following which I joined Taylor and Francis again in the capacity of an editor. Currently, I work as head of academic relations and partnerships at Taylor and Francis from earlier this year. And in my role, I'm working closely with research academies, associations, and universities across South Asia as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. As far as Taylor and Francis is concerned, so we are representing ourselves to the wide research community, academic community, through these imprints that we publish. The six big imprints that we publish are Taylor and Francis, which actually is the huge portfolio of hybrid as well as open access journals across STEM and HSS disciplines. We are also the home to the largest HSS publishing venue, which is Routledge. We publish cutting-edge STEM books, all textbooks, reference books, handbooks, etc., under our CRC press imprint. Then we have these three big open access journal imprints, Peerj, F1000, Dove Press Medical, all publishing across the entire disciplines of STEM as well as HSS. As a publisher, what we are majorly doing is providing you services, not just in publishing your literature, but hand-holding you across the publishing and, your research life cycle. So right from, and research, you can view it in the form of the cycle, where research initiates with a hypothesis, there's an experiment that follows, there are results that, come out of that experiment. And you ultimately, prepare your manuscript and publish. And then we're also there with you while, you engage with the larger community through the research that you publish. So we provide a huge high quality access to literature across all disciplines. And, that's really helpful when you are building a hypothesis, when you want to access good quality literature to work on some experiments. Next is, at an experiment stage, what you can do is publish the outcome in various formats, not just like a research article or a review article, but, if you have some early analysis, like you can publish those as registered reports or study protocols. These are also ways to, get methods published. An early version of your, results could also be published as a preprint. And currently we are partnering with Gates Foundation on this validated preprint platform called VeriChive that ensures validation. with its many validation checks. So usually preprints are loosely moderated where, once you have any research, you can easily publish that. But our preprint, which is in collaboration with Gates, provides more than 20 validation checks. So, that is also not as loosely moderated. And any Gates funded researcher is eligible to publish in it free of cost. We also provide support to researchers in their journey of manuscript publication, So you can optimize manuscript through language polishing services, manuscript editing services that we offer. And another thing, which we also help is publishing research articles as well as books in an open access format for maximizing your impact. The last stage is creating impact. So we don't just want you to publish with us. What we also want to see is you getting the engagement and impact out of the research that you publish with us. So we support you in impact reporting on things such as usage, citations, policy. We also help promote published research through various means like graphical, abstract, infographics, or impact summary services. Overall, we'd like to be a part of your entire research publishing journey. And through all these stages, something that we closely associate with and do is provide training to researchers across the globe. So we have our outreach and research development teams that are working closely with research communities across the globe, helping them through various processes of the research cycle, such as, while peer review, peer review, of editing, of writing an article. So those are the kind of training topics that we do provide you with. As far as our own journey is concerned with respect to open research, we are truly championing it. We've been working towards a future where trusted, validated, and high quality knowledge is meant to be available to all. So our journey with open research started way back in 2006 when our first set of hybrid journals were really established in STM discipline. So basically, before this, the journals were all behind a paywall, and it was only 2006 that we also opened them up for open access publishing. This was followed by other activities to promote open research, such as launch of more broad scope journals. In 2016, we had our first OA agreement in Netherlands, following which we did welcome a lot of full open access journal imprints under our umbrella. So Dove Press, F1000, more recently Peer J, they're all a part of the TNF's huge portfolio of open research publishing venues. As a publisher, yeah, sorry, is someone saying something? Hi, there's some disturbance on the line. Okay,
Please
so as
ensure, hold on, Dr. Kahali, please ensure that you're all muted. We have only Dr. Kahali's microphone on. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, so as a trusted partner, what we want to do is work closely with institutions and researchers. So at this point, we have over 1,000 global agreements that simplify compliance with open research requirements, your funder mandates, your university guidelines. We are also the leading open access books publisher. Currently, we publish over 2,500 full OA books and more than 42,000 open chapters. We are also the first publisher to set a data policy across all new books content. And in terms of the various routes that we provide to open access, we are innovative, flexible, and ensure that you are supported in your open research journey through diverse pathways that combine funding as well as community support. With the advent and with the deluge of information, and misinformation, disinformation, that's rampant right now in today's academic and research ecosystem, we really, really prioritize ethics and integrity to build trust in research, in science overall. So we are working across the research sector with various organizations to combat research misconduct at large scale. So we do take action. in the graph at the beginning, you can see the number of ethics cases that have been on the rise. These are the ethics cases that our research integrity team, they check on a daily basis. So we ensure that every suspected misconduct case is thoroughly looked into. We uphold trust in research and ensure that there's rigor at each stage of publishing process. So right from the submission process, where we screen manuscripts, preventing thousands of problematic articles being published, we ensure that there's thorough peer review, which happens for both our research articles as well as book proposals. These are assessed by experts with code of conduct and training and unbiased and thorough constructive peer review. So we are working not only with authors, but also with our editorial teams, editorial board members. They are also being appropriately and continuously trained on these aspects. Ultimately, we are also dealing at the post-publication stage. So if we publish that is wrong, we take every measure to correct the scholarly record. So only validated and, the correct literature is available for you to reach. And we also mark literature. If there has been problematic articles, we'll mark it as such. So, nobody ends up reading and, trying to build upon something that has some ethics misconduct associated with it. We are a leader in this sector. Okay, we are trying to raise standards and driving policy changes across the research and publishing ecosystem. And in these endeavors, we are supported by various global organizations such as STM, Co, United to Act Against Paper Mills. So these are all the, because we can't really battle this out alone. So we have to, have multiple stakeholders and organizations as a part of this huge work that we've undertaken to combat research misconduct. So open research, today's topic is open research, mostly policies and impact. But what is it truly? So it is a process, it is a way of making research more transparent, accessible, reusable, as well as reproducible. So we are looking at an ecosystem where high quality knowledge is produced, and it's also available freely. There's access available for people to build on it. Systems, we want to make sure that systems are interoperable. All this knowledge that's created is reusable, ultimately to the benefit of society. But what were the driving forces for open research? So, of course, there were funder mandates, okay, all across the globe. There more and more funders, especially government funders and, other funding agencies are creating mandates around making it compulsory for any grant awardees, that have been, who have received funding from their funding agencies, ultimately publish the outcome in open formats so that it's available. So, the research that has been funded by them is available for others to use. We've also seen a huge rise of unethical research practices, right from researchers manipulating peer review to unattributed use of AI. Ultimately, there's this huge reproducibility crisis where, more than 70% of the researchers are unable to reproduce experiments done by others, and approximately 50% are unable to reproduce their own results. Okay, and in these scenarios, it's really helpful to have various parts of various parts of research and knowledge available for people to use. So when we are talking about open research, we're talking about this huge movement, this umbrella of terms, which not only includes the final outcome, such as open access articles, but the various parts of research. So be it open data, open peer review, open methods, all of this is important. So, when various parts of your research is available for people to use, there's a higher amount of trust, and there is an increased chance that reproducibility of the research that you've produced. So why does open access matter? There's a lot on this slide, but at the heart of it all, open access addresses access inequalities. Okay, access inequalities prevent many researchers in underserved disciplines and regions from accessing the knowledge that is needed to advance their work. But also needed for general, interested audiences to know more about research. It might, have policymakers or government, actually reading that research and acting upon it. So opening up research actually makes it available to various stakeholders across disciplines, regions, career stages, and also professions. So not just your field, it opens your research up, to people across the board. It advances knowledge for sure. Because if a researcher is unable to find existing data, methods, nitty-gritties of the research, that you've worked on, they can't really build upon that work. You end up duplicating efforts, you end up wasting a lot of resources and slowing progress. So open research actually helps to advance knowledge and drive progress. And, does all that quickly, because, the literature is available to you immediately. As soon as you publish it, it's available for you. So people can build on your work quickly. It addresses the reproducibility crisis, as I already mentioned. So open research increases transparency of research data and methods, making research more robust. It also helps in policy momentum. So increasingly, there's demand for publicly funded research to be available. And open research supports compliance and aligns with global policy goals. Transparency and equity is at the heart of it. So closed systems make it hard to identify potential bias or inequities. But open research actually ensures that all researchers, regardless of where they're based, what kind of resources they're having, are able to benefit from the high quality, research and knowledge that's available. It supports inclusive knowledge society. So this figure here is actually UNESCO's recommendation on open science, which says that, the ultimate aim for open science is to support inclusive knowledge societies. The ultimate aim is that, there is open scientific knowledge, there are open science infrastructure, there's engagement on the research that's produced, and there's it also simplifies the dialogue with different stakeholders and knowledge system. What we generally end up looking and considering at open access is usually the little green quadrant here, which is scientific publication and others. But there's a lot more. So there's investment on open infrastructure, looking at the metrics, but all of it contributing to a very equitable knowledge ecosystem where multiple stakeholders can, access knowledge, use it. And on the other side of it, the core mission of, organizations like Taylor and Francis, and other academic publishing is to advance knowledge through rigorous inquiry and dissemination and to foster human progress. Open access ensures that all these objectives, the ones set by UNESCO, the ones that we are aiming towards, are achieved through making research findable, accessible. I've written reusable, but I think I would have, wanted to use interoperable also here. The result is showing up in the metrics. There are 35% more citations, 5x more downloads, and twice as much as altmetric attention. And all of these indicate the engagement with your research, because at the end of the day, that is what you would want. You want people to read the research that you have produced, to engage with it, to ensure that further collaboration routes open up, and there's a lot of engagement on the work that you have done. Usually, we look at open access, but these are the 4 pillars: open data, open code, open papers, and open reviews. These all form open research or open science. And the underlying principle of open science is fair, okay? So open research needs to be, and open data, it needs to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Traditional publishing workflow usually looks at a research article, which is out there in the open. But open research actually supports the discovery of various parts, including research methods, activities, and output, which are not surfaced through the traditional workflow. So if you look at the bottom of this iceberg image here, there are many other parts of, other aspects of research which also needs to be available openly for people to be able to reuse and build upon the work that's there. So underlying data, null and negative results, which is equally important. So we are always focused on publishing groundbreaking results, but null and negative research is actually one of the greatest ways in which you can ensure, transparent, equitable sort of an ecosystem. We've also seen that research articles, which are linked to data, on an average, receive 25% more citations. And this is because there's an added trust element to it. When there is data associated with you, when that, the author who has published this article can furnish that data, and, that data and details can actually help you build your own research, you are more likely to use that piece of literature, okay? And therefore, more citations and more reads on those papers. Quickly looking at data, and probably I will go through these very quickly here. So this little infographic here actually shows you the whole data sharing process, okay? So I've split it up into 4 parts. First is planning. So data sharing planning actually starts much before, you're actually publishing the research. A data management plan is one of the first things that you would probably do, which includes, having a plan in place, you selecting a repository which is suitable for the kind of research that you want to do. Second is you prepare data according to the guidelines that you have. So, wherever necessary, you anonymize it, create metadata, or, describe your data properly, check data sets, headers, etc. Make sure that it is in a format which could be uploaded and submitted. Finally, you deposit all that data in a repository that is suitable for you and include all the metadata associated with it. And finally, in the publication that is there, you describe, using a data availability statement to your manuscript. All of these steps usually happen before submitting the manuscript to a journal. And in fact, we have seen in journals where there are open data policies, we see a lot of rejection happening because of non-adherence to the data policies. And so that's one of the major things that you need to, keep in mind when you're submitting an article. This I might kind of skip. So basically, what exactly is data? So how do you know whether, you have data which you want to declare in your research? So your data is both the input of research process as well as the output. So so journal data policies, they actually require, a lot of time they require data supporting findings of your research paper. So, look at what the particular journal that you're submitting to is actually asking. This is another one which is actually about selecting a data repository. This is again very field specific. Look at an appropriate database, which data repository where you want to submit your data. Make sure there's metadata associated with it. Make sure there's a persistent, identifier, because you would be citing the data, and depending on these, you use that for your own research experiment. Last is describing the data. This is an example of a data availability statement, and which where you need to describe the data, including the data repository that you've used. The data set needs to be named. The data reuse license, that is very important, what license you're using for the data. And also the identifier, the persistent link that it has, the DOI, or add all of this in your data availability statement. Make it as transparent, and as easy to read as possible. Finally, for sharing sensitive human data, of course, this would be planned in advance, and your IRB approval needs to be taken. You have to take consent wherever it's needed, anonymize data wherever it's needed, and describe any sharing limitations in your article's data availability statement. Because if there's sensitive data, of course, you can't share it as openly as, certain other kind of data set. So Taylor and Francis really encourages you to share data, but of course we are not mandating that on all our journal venues. So our data sharing requirements range from basic to open and fully fair, and where data citation and data availability statements are highly encouraged in the basic one, to where these are mandatory, as far as open and fully fair data is concerned. Also, the license that is applied to the data set needs to be checked here. So whereas in a basic one, it's author's choice, but when you go to a more open data policy, there, you may have to use a CC BY or an equivalent, whatever the mandate is. So underlying thing here is check your journal's instructions for authors to identifying what kind of data sharing requirement you have, and do this before submission. Second is open data, open code. So of course, research output are varied, and increasingly, we are taking advantage of new technology, codes, etc., to capture data, analyzing huge sets of data. So openly stating the code, open code is becoming increasingly so. As materials and methods, open code is also now an increasingly important aspect of your research, which you need to declare if you have been using. So this I will probably skip. So this is an evidence on how, adding extenders, article extenders to your publication makes it easier to read, gives higher engagement to your article, so things such as plain language summaries or podcasts, infographics, graphical abstracts, these are making your research more engaging to a wider, audience. And what we have seen is, as an example, things like clinical trial protocols with additional extenders, they averaged 4,000 plus views versus 2,000 plus without. So these are actually helping in making your article accessible. So it's a good idea for you to have a look at, what are the kind of article extenders that are available for you, and especially looking at the kind of audience that you're expecting for your research, for your publication. Take it to use it to your advantage. And, there is no exaggerating here, but we've actually seen that, with things like plain language summaries or, podcasts, etc., there have been a 144% uplift. Okay, that's a real number. 144% uplift in the views and engagement with your research. Last, of course, is third is open papers. This, of course, you are more familiar with. This is actually open access publishing, which is all about making content freely available for people to read. So as soon as you publish your article, anyone, anywhere, anytime can, and as long as they have internet access, are able to read your article. Also, depending on the kind of licenses used, makes your content reusable by third parties with little or no restriction. You have to have a look at what the CC BY license is. Usually, open access is often signified with this particular image, often, orange open lock. There are some key differences between open access and non-open access articles, especially around, open access is where the author retains the copyright of their article. We use a CC BY license, and there's free reuse by third parties. Okay, and these are not the case in non-open access articles. The many colors associated with open access. Green open access is usually, when articles are published online and uploaded into certain repositories. Usually you have to look at the embargo period if it's applicable. Here, publishers usually, retain the copyright, and you do not, no APCs are charged here. Gold open access is, of course, the open access we are talking about right before, where author retains the copyright, author decides on the license style, as well as the reuse type is, and these are usually supported by APCs, which are either funded by the funder, institution, etc. Then there is also open diamond open access, where these are usually covered by third parties. So these platforms are usually hosted by institutions, societies, and funders. And we also have certain, diamond open access venues, and that's definitely something that is really growing, and we're looking for more and more engagement with research communities on this. Hybrid open access is essentially subscription journal with an option to publish OA. This I will skip, and this is also something that I'll be skipping. As far as preprint, because this is a question which we get often, that, is it really wise to publish in a preprint if you want to publish, as a journal article later? So authors can actually share their original manuscript as they like, in a preprint server of their choice. And posting on a preprint server is not considered to be duplicate publication. And this is not going to jeopardize consideration for publication in any of our journals. So we actually encourage you to publish in preprints. It is also a manner of getting early reviews on your research. It's a way of time stamping your article. And we are absolutely, in agreement with you publishing on a preprint server. And that does not fall into like a plagiarism category, as a lot of researchers have queries about. So go ahead, do publish your preprint, and after it is done, you can also submit the same article in a journal venue of your choice. This is something which is coming up more and more, where a lot of demand around peer review transparency is coming up. So we do have open peer review in journals such as F1000. We are also piloting it with certain journals within the broader TNF umbrella. But majority of our journals still use a single or a double anonymized, a blinded peer review. But open peer review definitely is something that the community is opening up to, where you can have the peer review comments along with the article, uploaded for people to read. So that is one step ahead in the transparency part of this whole open research ecosystem. So finally, the benefits of open research for researchers. So apart from these metrics of getting 5 times more downloads, 40% more citations, and twice as much as altmetric attention, it really helps in boosting your credibility. When you have open methods, open data that are available for people to use, there's added trust in your research. You of course enhance your visibility. Your article is available for people to read, to build on, and there's a huge collaboration opportunity for you, which definitely helps in you progressing your career. So we have seen that, with things like open data, etc., you have an increased chance at citations. If you're interested, you can have a look at this little, article, which is called 5 Selfish Reasons to Work Reproducibility. Here. This is an example of how impactful an accessible article is, okay? And your support, like your institution support, your funder support, actually gives the researcher, the author, that one chance of maximizing the impact that they have. So they, through the research journey of a PhD scholar, they might publish 1 or 2 articles. But if that is made open access, they have this huge opportunity of getting a lot of engagement on their research. So this is an example of a research article, which was published about 18 months ago. Currently, it reflects in the top 5% of all research outputs scored by Altmetric, and has both significant views and citations. And if we delve deeper, we'll see that researchers across the globe are actually reading it, and not just researchers who have access to, have subscription to certain journals, but researchers across disciplines, geographies, and even maybe not researchers, even policymakers, government, and other stakeholders are also able to access and engage with your research. So quick recap on why OA is important. So it reduces the barrier to collaborative research, okay? Data sharing policy, transparency, attribution, all of it is making the research ecosystem more collaborative. It's also reducing research waste, You are really addressing the reproducibility crisis. You know that this is the data associated with it. These are the methods. It's easier for you to reproduce and, minimize the budget waste. It helps removes bias in editorial processes, especially with things like open peer review, etc. It will definitely help reduce that bias. It also enables people to build on your ideas and build on knowledge immediately, okay? Despite of where they are based. It also supports easier access to research as well as publishing opportunities for developing nations, global south, and underfunded research areas. So I am based in India. I have been a researcher in India, and I know that if I have the ability to access research from every discipline, I'll feel much more empowered in my own research and academic journey. Um, so it also enables better real world impact. Okay, so research isn't just for academics, it just isn't just for the lab, it's for practitioners, it's for policymakers, NGOs, journalists. So you are essentially making that high quality research accessible for a larger societal benefit. And by supporting easy and equal access to all aspects of research, it supports more evidence-based policy. The policy decisions that the government take are now based on research, high quality research, and these also help in policy recommendation as well as in practicing changes. So with that, I'd like to end my presentation. Here's my email address. If you need to reach out to me after this session, please feel free to do so, and I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kah, into the contributions and services being provided by Taylor and Francis in supporting researchers to sustainably transition to open research access. We appreciate such insights that you have given us. And just a few announcements that we have simultaneous interpretation in French available. So you just have to click on the globe icon with the interpretation written underneath it, and then you choose French. You would have access to the French interpretation. So also mentioned that Taylor and Francis is supporting this year's Africa Universities Day. They've been one of our long-standing partners at the Association of African Universities, and we are very proud to be associated with them. So we would like to receive your feedback. If there are any questions for Dr. Kahali, we would also, you can unmute. You would just alert us by raising your hand. We would help you unmute, and then you would throw across your question, send across your question. Otherwise, you can also use the Q&A chat box as indicated in the chat, that everybody can access the Q&A, and then you drop your questions over there. I see Dr. Kahali has dropped her email address in the chat box, so you can reach her after this presentation as well. But then, like I said, it's been very insightful. And the most important thing is that knowing that at the heart of research, open access research for Taylor and Francis is ethics and integrity in building research in Africa. And then also that they are pushing or promoting for research visibility and research impact, not just for African researchers, but then across the globe. And these are very insightful feedback we have received. And I will quickly go into the chat box to see if we have any feedback, any comments. I think most of the feedback are in line with Dr. Kahali's presentation, appreciating the very vital information that she has provided. And yes, Dr. Ayub from Ethiopia wants to find out if the presentation will be available. Yes, it will be available on the event platform. So the event page where you registered, we would have the presentations available there. So we are open to receive questions. Dr. Kahali is here to answer any questions in related to open access. If you have any contribution to make in addition to her presentation, please feel free to raise a hand and you will be invited to speak. Okay, so let me just read some of the feedback we have received. We have this from ES Olarinde in Nigeria, saying a very good day and best wishes for a successful event. And we have Jafar also saying it's a very great presentation. So Professor Olushola Oyewole, who is the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, is highlighting the AAU's contribution to open access, stating that apart from this, our partnership with Taylor and Francis, by creating this platform for African universities to connect with publishers, we also help universities to accept open science, universities in Africa to accept open science. So we have a question from Judith Wafula. Dr. Kahali, she wants to know what percentage of African research is published by Taylor and Francis.
Hi, thank you so much for that question. I think it's a great question to ask. So basically, at this point, what we have seen is that there's a continuous increase in articles, like not only publications but submissions coming in from Africa and across disciplines. So to give some kind of idea, so we have in the last 3 years we have over 11,000, yeah, I think close to 11,000 articles, open access articles coming in from Africa to our content, published with TNF. We also see that out of all the content that is published in our venues, close to 40% is actually open access. So that's an incredible insight that we've received. That usually we think that only countries like the US and others that are investing through these institutional partnerships and RNPs are growing in OA. But in Africa, close to 40% of the content that we are publishing comes in OA. And not only articles, so like the 11,000 publications that we have in the last 3 years, we also have a huge number of full open access books coming in from Africa. So we have society partnerships, close to 70 journals that are co-published with African societies or are about, African studies. We have a huge and growing number of articles. And we also have some specific platforms. So there's this platform which is there. It's called Open Research Africa. It is an F1000 platform that we have, which publishes research in collaboration with the Science for Africa Foundation. So we are, and I'm seeing immense potential in our partnership with African researchers and research communities. So yes. So I hope like the question was small, but I did try to give a glimpse of, the other things that we are doing with AU and with other institutes. So we also have a partnership with the SANLIC Consortia, then individual partnerships with different universities across Africa, as well as not just with universities and consortia, with independent societies as well. I hope that answers your question.
Judith Wafula, I hope your question is
Yes,
answered.
it's well answered. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
you. And we have another question on whether Taylor and Francis give waiver on the APC to researchers from Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes, we do. So there is a difference from country to country in the term, like in the kind of waivers that they are available. But most of the countries in Africa either have waivers already because of the World Bank listing, but also then there are individual partnerships that we have done with certain consortia. And the consortia is actually then supporting the APCs and giving out those waivers to the researchers. And also, say in a country like South Africa, we do not have those World Bank waivers, but this is a country that where the consortia has actually paid up for the researchers, and the researchers at their individual levels are being able to utilize that sort of a benefit.
Thank you. Hope the question is adequately answered. So there is another one that participants would want to know how Taylor and Francis define its long-term vision for open access, particularly in the context of equitable global participation.
Thanks. That's a very important question. So what we are trying to do is look at, growing this whole or working on this open science sort of a movement. Okay, not just open access. As I said, that open research is so much broader than just open access. So we are trying to bring in processes, bring in venues that are context specific. So if you look at my own remit, I handle the regions of South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Both of these regions have very similar issues, with funding, with huge amount of research being produced, and yet you'll have to look at the quality of research, and also so we are trying to have all sorts of consideration and finding out venues, and also looking at partnership, because at the heart of all this, we do believe that individual researchers and authors cannot be asked to pay these APCs. So if we can work with the governments, with the policymakers, funders, and institutions to make transparent, equitable research more accessible to regions across the world, that'll be great. But now we have really seen that sort of an output growth, both from South Asia as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. So these waivers, these partnerships, all of these are helping. But we're continuously trying to listen to the researcher community and see how we can work on even better, sustainable ways. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much for the response. And finally, there's another question, which is more in line with the waiver that was answered earlier. And this wants to know whether Taylor and Francis has institutional or consortia agreements that allow universities to publish open access articles without individual APC payment.
Yes, that's a great question. We do have a lot of these. So SANLIC in South Africa is one of them, but we're working with other consortia as well. So subscription, we are working with countries across Sub-Saharan Africa. So we have partnerships in Ethiopia, in Tanzania, in Nigeria, and a lot of other places. But with these consortia, we are trying to build these open pathways as well, because I think that's the priority for researchers. When we do these surveys, every researcher, really wants to maximize the impact of their research, and it's imperative that we work with these consortia to help not only provide access to researchers, but also make it easier for them to publish in these venues, which are actually, helping them engage people with their research.
This very important, relevant information, and I know the researchers connected as well as institutions connected are taking notes. I'm very certain they would contact you after this session. But also, how does Taylor and Francis ensure that open access journal maintain the same quality and peer review rigor as subscription-based journals?
Thank you so much. I will take this question, and since I actually have a flight to catch, so I'll probably be taking this as the last question. Do reach out to me on my email, because I'm really appreciating the kind of questions that are coming to us, and we would love to partner with researcher communities, more actively, dynamically. But yes, so the open access journals that we have follow the same rigor in peer review and editorial processes as our non-open access journals do. So we have, and a clear mark of that would be the rejection rates for all TNF journals. You would see that they have comparable rejection rates for subscription and open access journal. So, whether it is peer review, whether, they're checking on the quality, doing all the validation steps, everything is the same. And that actually sets apart a genuine, authentic publisher from a more, from a publisher that where the intention is to just keep growing open access content, and making those APCs. So our our USP is that we're not compromising on the quality at any stage. So you might, which sometimes becomes problematic for the researchers, because they'll say you're taking a lot of time for peer review, the editorial steps are long, etc. But we are ensuring we're, even with that time we're spending, we're really trying to ensure that every piece of literature that's there on our platforms is curated, is validated, and is not compromised on quality just because it's open access. Because even whether it's subscription or it's APC, like both, like somebody or the other is paying for it. But we do not want to compromise on our quality, and every check is the same regardless of the model that it follows.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kahali. I think there's one more question, but you said you need to catch a flight.
Yeah, I
know
need
you
to
want to
go.
take it,
But these, the
you can
APCs
reach out to
definitely,
you.
the APCs are high, but we are really trying to find out ways to make it more sustainable. And most of these are going to progress through partnerships. So partnerships coming in from different sides of fundament and all, and really ensuring that research is more accessible. But I would love to take these conversations up with you. Please reach out to me. I'll respond to each one of you, and would love to be on another platform with AAU soon again.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Kahali, for joining and giving us such insights into open research and the contributions Taylor and Francis is making in that regard. You've helped us to understand the relevance of open research access in terms of addressing access inequality by ensuring a multidisciplinary and multi-stakeholder access to research, and also advancing knowledge to reduce duplication, and then also taking us through some steps we need to know before submitting a manuscript, among the many other informative insights you have given us. Thank you so much. And like she said, if you want to take up this discussion, please, you can take her email address, which has been posted in the chat, and then you follow up. Otherwise, you can also reach out to us at the AAU, and we'll be glad to connect
on
you.
LinkedIn as well as Twitter. I'm quite active there. So, I'm very happy to engage with you over LinkedIn as well. So, or you can just type my name, that'll appear. But I really look forward to these discussions. Thanks a lot for having me here at this very important event.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.